Hey guys, welcome to another Let's Pro Teaches Noob. Today I have Ingrid with me.
Hi.
And today we're going over one that I knew Ingrid would find very interesting. The first officially labeled Elseworld, Batman Holy Terror. Where basically, what if Gotham was run by the church?
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about this concept just from the sound of it?
I think it'll probably be an interesting intersection of the bad things that happen when political and religious power get in bed with each other and why that should not happen.
You are absolutely right.
And
And look
usually,
at that
from what I've
cover.
seen of comics so far, they actually tend to do a pretty good job of it, which is more than I can say of a lot of more shallow media of that sort today.
Look at this cover by the late great Norm Brayfogle.
That is really striking.
It is. Elseworlds. In Elseworlds, heroes are taken from their usual settings and put into strange time and places. Some that have existed or might have existed, and others that can't, couldn't, or shouldn't exist. The result is stories that make characters who are as familiar as yesterday seem as fresh as tomorrow.
Which is, long story short, we're making AUs so we can expand on your favorite characters more, which is great.
Yep. Gotham Town, 20 years ago. Throughout the American Commonwealth, September 3rd is revered as the most sacred of days, second only to the birth of Christ himself. On this day, in the year of our Lord, 1658, the great Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell, rallied by an act of providence from the malaria which had threatened to claim him, and continued his reign for another decade. Every school child gives thanks to the day into this day, knowing and that but for this America and England before it would not have become what it is. So in other words, Cromwell survived.
Huh. Well, that's an interesting place to start from.
You're aware of who Cromwell is, right?
Oh, yes, he was one of the most notorious figures of the French Revolution.
So in other words, what if he survived and this led to America basically continuing with that viewpoint?
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that working out. I
Yeah,
can
but that's
see
where the
that making
division
sense.
that's where the division starts. A covenant nation forged and tempered under the judgment and mercy of God. Butcher left the parents to die, left the boy to watch. Eddie ID, wallet's gone, so is the wife's necklace. He stripped the bodies clean, except for this. For Thomas Wayne, in recognition of service to God and country. Thomas Wayne, personal physician to the Privy Council? Well, that puts a whole new light on things, doesn't it? Act of sedition, maybe assassination. Might explain how the thief missed this 14-karat gold, melted it down, should bring in at least 300 crowns. Bruce, there's your name, Bruce. I'm Jim Gordon. I'm an inquisitor. Inquis- in, yeah, inquisitors have to ask questions, even when they don't want to, Bruce. Even when you don't want to hear them. I'm sorry. Did you see the man who did this? Do you remember what he looked like? Yes, I suppose the real problem will be in forgetting. Wow, just one page in already!
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Joseph Chill, one prior, armed robbery 7 years ago in Coventry. Then just 1 month ago, he was arrested on suspicion of murder. Yes, I'm familiar with the case. How do you propose he killed those two people when he's been in Coventry for the past 30 days? You tell me. A professional thief who passes up a gold trinket as though no one told him the victim would have it, as though he took only what he was instructed to. Then no sooner do I ID him, I discover he's dead, killed in a prison quarrel with another inmate. Good timing, wouldn't you say, Lord Commissioner? I'd say, Gordon, there's a green recruit only recently transferred from New Amsterdam. You're perhaps a bit too overeager. That I might be persuaded to overlook this zealous fantasizing this time. 2 people were killed. People are killed every day, Gordon. Surely you know that. Children cut down by sniper fire in a schoolyard. Pregnant mothers stabbed while coming home with the groceries. Senseless, tragic, random violence. We can't save them all, Gordon. You're a father to be, aren't you, James? More than most, you can appreciate the tragedy of this crime. I understand that, but you can't let it cloud your judgment. Take the afternoon hat off. Go home. Count your blessings. Be grateful for the safety of your own family. Say hello to Barbara and to Barbara, isn't it for me? Yes, sir. I'll do that. I like this, Gordon.
I do too. He's definitely somebody that's very straight-laced, common man's common sense morality.
But now, today, in Victoria Vale was Newsbreak, topping the hour. Good news from the front. Resistance force in Brazil appears ready to concede and defeat the Commonwealth forces. General North's Crusade Battalion has marched triumphantly into Buenos Aires, and the Brazilian dictator Jorge Amado is reported to have committed suicide. With the fall last month of the corrupt heathen regime in France and Guinea, this leaves only the tiny state of Peru between the Commonwealth and its manifest destiny in this hemisphere. Europe's diplomatic posturing in support of the falling government of Guinea has not interfered with the Commonwealth's freedom re-education programs in that country. Closer to home, millionaire industrialist Oliver Queen, tried and convicted of sedition for his covert support of such underground Jewish pornographers as Isaac Singer, was executed this morning. Sources confirm that Queen repented in the final moments before death. In Plymouth, Parliament considered landmark legislation that would alter the balance of suffrage for the first time in 50 years. Under the proposed law, landowners would maintain their current plural vote, but for the first time, women would be polled as the same basis as non-landholding men, each having a single vote. Non-whites would move up from their current half vote to one determined by their individual economic status, but not to exceed 75%. Lord Protector Melville endorsed this proposal today while preparing for tomorrow's renewal celebration in Cromwell Square. That's the news at this hour. More later on most of your local stations. I'm Victoria Vale. God bless. This is terrifying, isn't it? The church has
Yeah!
almost taken over the entire world.
Well, church in a big air quotes.
Yeah. I can still hear myself playing here with the train set Father bought me for my 6th birthday. I can still hear the rattle of wheels on tracks, the tiny sound of a miniature steam whistle. I can hear Mother singing to herself as she cooks. I can still smell the tart cherry flavor of Father's pipe tobacco. Oh, the jasmine scent of Mother's perfume. I think too much. Master Bruce, the movers have the last of it, I believe. It's rather odd to think of my furniture, my belongings elsewhere. I know, as odd as it still seems to me, thinking of you elsewhere. Alfred, the offer's still good. I'm not ceding all of my property to the state. I'll still keep the estate. You can stay here as long as you wish. Sorry. No, thank you, Master Bruce. But living alone here would be. A gentleman's gentleman makes a sort of compact with the house he serves. He agrees to help make a home for its family, and it, in turn, agrees to be a home for him. The family's moved on, and the compact is ended. The stay behind would be presumptuous. The house never made the home, Alfred. You did. In my father's house are many mansions. But none will ever mean more to me than the one you made for me. Master Bruce, are you certain this is what you want? Yes, I am. You remember the night I'd wake crying for months afterwards? The times you stayed up with me, watching TV, making popcorn, helping to hold the dark at bay? Well, I'm not afraid of the dark anymore, Alfred. I found peace. God's given me peace. I wish I could make you feel that as I do. I wish I can make you believe it. I want nothing more in this life than to believe it. Goodbye, Master Bruce. Goodbye, my old friend. God bless you and keep you. Aww.
And that is seems to be set up as a deliberate contrast to what we just saw in the news broadcast.
Yeah. But yeah, look at him working out with everything. Excellent. Lost none of your form, I see. Jim, how the devil did you get in? I didn't hear. I didn't teach you all my tricks, Bruce. Had to save a couple in case I needed them. Good move there. You'd have made a fine inquisitor. Jim, we've been over this ground before. I'm sorry if I hurt you, but it wasn't meant to be. It took me a long while, but I finally found my true calling. You didn't hurt me, Bruce. I want you to do whatever will make you happy. Before you do, before you take your vows, there are things I have to tell you. Things I should have told you long before. I'm not sure which you and what I'm not sure which you'll never forgive me for. Telling you or not telling you. Bruce, you remember what I said to you that night we met? Inquisitors have to ask questions even when they don't want to, even when you don't want to hear them. Yes, and the same for answers. I told you that I never found the man who killed your parents. That was a lie. What? But who? Why? Please, let me finish before I lose my nerve. His name was Joseph Chill. He was dead before I even discovered his name. A convict, released for one purpose and one purpose alone, to kill your parents and make it seem like a street crime. But it wasn't. It was an execution, Bruce. A state execution. But that's absurd. My father was personal physician to the Privy Council. Why would the government want to kill him? In all likelihood, it was the Privy Council itself that ordered his death. You only knew part of what your parents were, Bruce. You only saw the loyal state citizens, not the radical agitators who, in Abstina, were tried and convicted of reproductive activities. You see, they were too high up in the holy elite to be put on public trial. The state doesn't want to admit that citizens of such high ranks could be traitors, so it had to be a covert enough execution to seem like a tragic accident, yet clear enough to their fellow insurrectionists to prove an effective deterrent. It's all on this disc. I I couldn't let you go and become a part of the very system that killed your parents. Don't you see? I had to. Had to what? Tell me that everything I believe, Ave, everything I love, everything that makes sense and peace of my life is a lie? Had to tell me that? Damn you! Damn your good intentions! Damn your concern! You didn't do this for me. You did it for yourself because it eased the weight on your conscience. Because it's all allays your guilt. How many other executions have you hushed up, Lord Commissioner? How many other assassinations? How much blood of how many families do you have on your hands? Too many. I suppose I'd hoped that you could become the kind of man I wanted to be, the kind of man I stopped being the night your parents were killed. But all I've really succeeded in doing is shift the burden of pain from one heart to another. I'm sorry, Bruce. And on March 2nd, McNeiter manages to. I can barely read this, unfortunately. I don't like when they do this cursive stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently, they say at one point, on March 2nd, McNitter manages to smuggle out another guinea pig in the state's behavior modification program. Burn marks on his genitalia where he was hooked up to low voltage electrodes. Ow!
Mm.
And consistent motor spasms, neural damage, and immeasurable psychological injury. Patient appears to have been subject to attempts to alter his sexual orientation with limited success. Marcia says at least it's preferable to dying along with the 4 million other homosexuals the state exterminates each year. I'm not so sure. April 5th, Caucasian woman, 22, good health, pregnant, drank half a bottle of drain cleaner in an attempt to abort her fetus, initiated gastric lavage, but the toxins had already reached her bloodstream. We lost her. June 2nd, basically showing all the horrors of this regime and what they're willing to do. You really knew nothing of this before your little visit from the Lord High Commissioner? Nothing. I found this journal in the box that I was preparing for storage. Of course, by then I had an idea of what to look for. Dr. McNitter, Charles. Charles. I still can't believe this. This journal, it's like it was written by a stranger. This wasn't the man I knew. No, but it was the true man. Sometimes you have to keep your true self hidden, even from those you love. Keeping that journal was a risk. Thomas kept it to let you know someday he and your mother truly were. in case they weren't here to tell you themselves. Damn it! I've spent 5 years finding some kind of peace, and now I find out that the God I thought I'd loved is responsible for my parents' deaths? No, not God. God's self-appointed interpreters. The holy elite celebrate Cromwell's renewal tomorrow. But the truth is that he'd be appalled at what they've made of his reformation. His church was tolerant, kind, the antithesis of this, and yet they twist his words and the words of the Bible to justify their oppression as tyrants have throughout history. That doesn't mean the words aren't true or that your God isn't just. I felt so angry for so long, and then I found him, and the anger went away. Now it's back, worse than ever. And perhaps before it was just a street thief. He escaped the law, but I can console myself he wouldn't escape God's judgment. But now I know someone else out there, someone who ordered my parents' death, and God's judgment isn't enough anymore. I want to make him suffer my judgment. I know your anger well. I felt it myself when someone, a state aide, threw acid in my eyes after I'd start my work with the underground. I knew it again over the years as comrade after comrade vanished or was murdered. Poor Alan Scott, who tried to break the state's stranglehold on communications by starting an underground radio network. Carter and Shiera, who used their passports as archaeologists to smuggle weapons into the country. Rex Tyler. Basically, this is McNider. That's Dr. Midnight. And he's talking about the rest of the JSA. All executed overtly or covertly. All friends. I don't want to fight the state. I just want to avenge my parents. How do I find the man who condemned them? How do I serve justice? Bruce, you can't. It was different in my time. There was a war in Europe. The Commonwealth was kept busy protecting England at home. At home, the government was distracted enough so the underground can make some small gains. But not now. There are no underground clinics anymore. No resistance fighters. After the war, the state just stepped in and obliterated us. But there must be somebody with the power to oppose. No one. Oh, there are rumors, legends about someone held captive in Cathedral with power enough to threaten the state, someone called the Green Man. But legend is all it is. Broken pieces of myth designed to give some false, pathetic hope to manipulate us. I know your anger. Believe me, I know it too well, but it's pointless. Go back to your life, Bruce. Get what happiness you can from it. You can't fight them. You can't beat them. If you try, you'll just lose everything you'd ever love. So yeah, we then see him being brought in as but now, and it seems like he's being taken in, being baptized and everything. But now he knows what he's going to do. What I must do. I would not take this path if I did not hear his voice in my choice, see his hand in my decision. Afterwards, I remain behind the prey, to give thanks to my Lord for the light he has shown on the path I've chosen. And then I embark upon my path. As he starts trying to find anyone who was involved back then. And then he soon goes back, and Alfred told me about this when I was a boy, about my father, and about how my father played the role of a demon in a church passion play when he was a young man at my age. I'd forgotten all about it until I ran across it while packing up the house. I think Father would approve. Broom and Brown and Lemmel, Lord High Magistrate, First Appellate Court, 329 cycles through 341st. At the request of Lord Protector Wallstein, and by the grace of God, ascended to the Privy Council, 342nd cycle. Served God and country in the same capacity until the 360th cycle. Pensioned 1 year later. Currently resides at 4421 Park Row. Press enter for further information. Good evening to you, Lemole. Dear God, what? You've been expecting me for some time, I imagine. Expected you? Why, yes, Lemole. Is it not written, be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man showeth, that shall he also reap? Don't quote scriptures to me, you. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. God's words, God's dictates. You lived by them for years. Can you truly say you never suspected you might die by them? Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. You took many an eye in your day, did you not, Lemole? Made many a hand, many a life. Do you remember their names, Magistrate? All of them? Hall, Tyler, Scott, Wayne? Wayne? Ha! I only wish I could take credit for his death. His was the greatest tragedy. Our own position, a friend who trusted with, and we trusted with our lives, who used that trust against us. I would have voted his execution in a moment, but the pleasantry was denied us. His possession too sensitive. The Star Chamber decided his fate, damn him. Yes, I remember them. Traitors, all of them. Heretics, I regret nothing. I would do it all again. Go ahead, kill me if you must, but I'll not renounce that which I know in my heart was right. Star Chamber, damn it, Gordon was wrong. The old man may not be an innocent, but he's not guilty of the crime I sought to avenge. Yet how can I let him live when he's seen me, heard me talk about the Waynes? Unless, of course, his testimony was discredited somehow. Lucky for me, the maid's night out. I call for the Inquisitors and Vice Division. Should keep Lamal entertained for some time. That would do it in a religious-run state, wouldn't it?
That really would.
Be dressed up in woman's clothing, that would, The Court of Star Chamber meets in Cathedral. I've seen magistrates there when I've gone to work in Bishop Caspin's administration offices. No, I won't make that mistake again. Honor Hainer, afternoon, Reverend. So he makes his way in there and he studies it all. Then sneaks on out from there. The violence comes as easy as the betrayal. I decided not to become an inquisitor because I wanted something more than that, something kinder. Have I really changed, or was I just deluding myself, ignoring the rage that feels so good now to release? The safest thing to do would be to kill them. When they regain consciousness, they'll alert the floor to my presence. But I'm not that far gone yet. Wonder if Iser has a code green and clearance card. This should hold him a while. And I can use their security card to disarm any electronic scanners before I stumble across them. Let's try it out on. Damn, nice security sensors. It must be tied into the lightning sets. Good God. What is that? Come on, damn it, just a little more. Come on, come on. Ah, damn. Are you all right? What the hell do you care? Who are you? One of Adro's latest projects? I'm nobody's project. Are you a prisoner? No, this is a department store display, and I'm a red tag special. Who the devil are you if you're not one of Edro's stooges? Why the costume? And it's Barry Allen. I was an inquisitor scientist, forensics. About a year ago, there was an electrical storm. Bolt of lightning struck a wreck of chemicals in my lab. When I gained consciousness, I had this incredible speed. I tried to keep it from the doctors, but they found out, and next thing I know, I'm here, a test subject, a hamster in a cage, as they try to duplicate my powers. So, yeah, basically now he just feels so upset, like, dear God, I had a life. I had friends, family, a woman I care for. I see her face all the time. See her crying, not knowing what's happened to me. Or maybe they told her I died in an accident. Maybe she's mourning me. I had a life, damn it! But he's eventually able to use his abilities to finally use his speed to get him out of there. But then, another kid named Terry, he tries to do the same thing, but... hell, Terry, when are you going to learn? He killed himself! No, the molecules will reform themselves eventually, but it could take weeks. He doesn't have conscious control over them. And each time he reforms, though, he's more unstable than before, physically and psychologically. One of these days, he's not going to come back. Who is he? Who are any of you? I told you. Hamster's in the cage. That's Gus. When he came out of the electrical charged chemical bath, he had the speed, but his bones started growing at an accelerated rate, resulting in a kind of hyperacromegaly. That's Corin. The chemicals affected her brain, not her body. She can't slow down her thought process, a mind racing at the speed of sound, trapped in a body that's 1,000 times slower, like being in prison twice over. Joshua, he was 3 years old when they experimented on him. 6 months ago. He's aging 3 years every week. He'll be dead inside of a month. I'll never understand understand why he's dying. Dear Jesus, I was a stick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. I almost wish I could believe Jesus was on the side of the government. Maybe then there'd be hope for those and these poor devils. A miracle, a laying on a hand. Maybe then there'd be hope for Arthur. Arthur, can you hear me? Arthur, I've escaped. I'll get you out too. I can do it. Damn it, Arthur, say something. Another experiment, in a way, another test subject. Amphibious, limited and telepathic abilities, they studied him, like me, and they tried to break me. He broke, but not in the way they intended. They found another woman. She called herself Laurie. They tried mating her with Arthur. She died giving birth, and you can see the results. Then they tried gene splicing, but the outcome wasn't much better. So they tried some mutagenic chemicals, like the ones that transform me. This one's tried to kill itself half a dozen times by smashing itself into the glass. It can see itself in the glass. God in heaven, I had no idea. What's this? Some sort of lead shielding for this and for this irradiated subjects? If you think the amphibians were horrible, you should see these sorry bastards. Some of these sorry bastards. I'll try to free as many as I can. At least those who can survive without life support says, you'll free no one, heathen. What? It's Satana. I warned them about you, Barry. Told them you were too much of a risk to be allowed to live. I enjoy being proved correct. This hits him and then hold him. Clutch fists as hold and clutch him and fist. Clutch him and hold him. Damn, it's the witch. Witch? Oof. God's own agent on earth. Couldn't you tell? Blasphemous if ever. Unlike you, I do not deny my fallen state. I accept the scene from which I was born and use that evil as a son and to the service of good. Walls and spear them and kill them. The governments can come a long way since the same witch trials. They no longer try to burn them; they convert them. Lightning strike, kill my foe. Oh, eventually, one of them falls. It destroys one of them all. She's dying. She can't breathe. Can we get in another take? No, not without breaking the glass in those two. Free. Murdering witch. You didn't need to do that. I was the one who escaped, not her. She's innocent. So she was. And sometimes the most effective deterrent, the most profound retribution is punishing an innocent. You vicious bitch! You want punishment? I'll give you punishment. Air, become solid. Protect me. Eventually, then, I've tried to convince the doctor to let me use my sorcery to convert you, but he's afraid my powers aren't subtle enough, afraid you might be damaged. But I don't see the doctors around, do you? Foe, become friend. Cast aside your heresy and resistance. Take Christ as your savior. But then throws on, and the state as your gas that knocks her out. All right, and now why don't you just go back to your room, Barry, before anyone else is hurt because of you? You son of a bitch! I didn't kill her. You did. You let her die. We're all animals to you, aren't we? Test animals we study, manipulate, dissected. Well, no more. You hear me? No more, because you're going to die. But charged at him, and it turns out he placed something on him that burns him. Basically, they have figured out a way to remove him of the aura that prevented him from bursting in the flames. Able to neutralize it. And then he's kept. Oh, that was this is basically Dr. Magnus because he has the Metal Men.
Oh boy.
I oversee Project Green Man. Go to hell if you're not already there. No matter. And basically, they're trying to figure out what to do. No, that's Clayface, actually.
Ooh, yeah.
And he takes him to Project Green Man. Superman. A God-fearing couple in Kansas found him and turned him over to us. Most powerful specimen I've ever studied. An astonishing array of abilities. The older he got, the more powerful he seemed to become. The more rebellious. He became more and more difficult to control. And finally, we had to eliminate the threat by using a bit of radioactive debris we discovered on the spacecraft we found in. So he's dead. Superman's dead.
Ugh.
I have no idea who the man is. I've never seen him before in my life. But suddenly I feel an unfathomable sense of loss, of sorrow, of hope destroyed and discarded. And I know somehow that Idril is right. that the state can destroy virtually any threat to it, but it has already destroyed what may have been, and I have no idea how I know this, but I do. This world's greatest hope. Mother, father, McNider and his friends, Barry, a man I knew less than an hour, but whom I'll never forget, and now this dead man who I mourn and I can't say why. A dying mermaid, a blind doctor, an orphan boy, all the murder, all the butchery, it's embodied in this instant in one man. Damn you! Damn you to hell! I knew you had to have a power. I knew it. Hagen, don't damage him too badly. I'll need some cell samples for possible cloning. He talks about powers the way some people talk about sex. Is that it? Is it some sort of intellectual fetish for him? Maybe he's right. Maybe I do have a power of a sort. Anger, rage. I spent half my lifetime trying to deny it. Then perhaps I should have been embracing it. But rage only carries you so far. Rage by itself gets you nowhere. But rage channeled by reason, by intellect. Now that's dangerous. No, don't. That's liquid nitrogen. Yes, I've noticed. I can just as easily run my tests on you during the autopsy. And because the green light died down, his skin is still invulnerable. And damn, duh! Look at that smile on him. He's feeling that hope.
Yeah.
Star Chamber. The 17th century, the the core of Star Chamber became the most feared judicial branch in England, as Charles I used it to enforce his own ecclesiastical proclamation. It was abolished in 1641 after opposition by our Puritan ancestors, who later revived it for their own purpose a century later. For centuries, it has been a shadow arm of government, pronouncing secret verdicts of those and the public judiciary systems cannot easily touch. This is where my parents' lives ended. This is where they were. May I help you? I don't know. I didn't know there was anyone here. Obviously. I give you considerable credit, sir, to have penetrated this far into cathedral. Perhaps you might tell me the reason for your presence here? Damn it. He can press the alarm faster than I can get to him. Play for time. I'm looking for records of a certain proceedings. I have proceeded here for over 40 years. Perhaps I might be a help to you. A couple was sentenced to death here 20 years ago. Many were sentenced to death here. Can you give me a name? I'd rather not. Just now. I'm not surprised. I take it those people were close to you, and you've probably come seeking those responsible for their deaths. You've done this before. Not like this, no. The names don't matter in any event. You want to know who's responsible? The answer is everyone, and no one. And what the devil does that mean? It means what it means. Are you familiar with the old tradition of firing squads? How one gun out of every squad is unloaded, so any man in the firing squad in line can think that perhaps he didn't fire the shot that killed the victim? A similar tradition prevails in the Star Chamber. When sadly a defendant is charged with a capital crime, the 12 magistrates on the tribunal vote on his guilt or innocence by a secret ballot. No one knows who voted for acquittal and who for conviction, nor are there any records of each individual vote. The face of justice, therefore, has the attributes of no one man or group of men, but of the chamber as a whole. It serves to remind us that individually we do not have the right or power to decide human fates. Only together do we have that prerogative. Does that answer your question? Not quite. What if I were to ask you, old man, how you vote on a specific case? And what if you told me you voted for death? Then you would most likely kill me, I imagine. And if you did, do you think that would satisfy you? No. It wasn't you that killed them. It wasn't even the Star Chamber. It was the system that gave you the power to kill them. The state that allowed a chamber like this to exist. That's what I have to kill. You can try, though I expect the opposite may occur. We'll see. Yes, we will. I look forward to the contest, sir. I expect it shall be most interesting. You may count on it, sir. When Gordon first came to me, I was afraid that and what he told me had invalidated the path I'd chosen, the faith I found. But it didn't. McNider was right. The words are still true. And if I am true to the words, the path I follow is a righteous one. God is not the state, and the state is not God. Defiance of God's self-styled interpreters is not denial of God. I will serve him in my own ways. And by day I shall wear the holy cloth, and by night I will wear a different kind of cloth, a darker shade of vestments. There may be no organized resistance, but thank heaven there was still men and women of conscience who will risk arrest and execution to build a weapon I will need in my jihad. I can do no less. Like me, they have no special powers, but perhaps that's exactly what is needed. A man with no powers save God's power against a regime that has long since lost sight of the tenets he died for. Still, I can't help but wonder what might have happened if, on that night 20 years ago, there had been a different ending, a happier one, or if instead of being killed by the state, mother and father truly had been the victim of random self-forced street crime. Perhaps everything would have been different. Well, overall, what did you think about that?
That was really, really good. That was really deep
Well
and really
thought
well
out.
thought out.
Yeah. What did you like best about it?
That is a really tough question because there is a lot to like here. I think I sort of like best how there's sort of this illustration of like this stark hypocrisy of like, I think especially when you open into the experiment room show just how far from their stated goals and motives this regime really was, because, well, they should know that people are made in God's image and you should therefore treat them that way, and yet they were treating them as no different than animals if they happen to be useful to them. And I feel like that sort of highlighted that the most in that moment. Although one thing that I was low-key expecting to happen is that the witch, after attempting to use the quote-unquote conversion thing...
Zatanna,
yeah. I was low-key expecting it to backfire because, hey, he's already of Christ, just not of your state. I would have liked to see something like that, but it was really good.
It was, and boy, Zatanna, I felt like, what happened to you, Z? What happened to you to lead you to this?
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt bad for everyone involved here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because, poor Bruce, right?
Poor Bruce, indeed. It's just like, you start him off looking all happy, like, hey, I've been at peace this tragedy of my life. It's just like, this is just the start of the book. There's no way that's gonna last. And it's just like, that wound got ripped open raw. It's just like, it's easy to sympathize with that feeling, though, when it's just like, when something that you've held so dear, you see a darker underside of it and think it's not like you thought. It's really, it's one thing to heal from a wound. It's another thing to have that same scar ripped open again. It's just like a lot of like Bruce's reactions to all of that are completely understandable.
Especially when McNider told him about, do not blame God. Do not blame his interpreters.
Mm-hmm. I've said this to you in DMs before, that the devil never has more fun than when he can get you to sin in the altar in the alleged name of God. And that's sort of what my go-to for how I like to see religious corruption like this. Or it's just like, hey, it's said... Once again, I know I talk about C.S. Lewis a lot, but his books are like really good and have a lot of wisdom in them. And one thing that he says is that the most unholy flower grows extremely close to the neighborhood of the holy. So you have to watch out and be on your guard. Definitely. Because it's very close to easy to walk that path of spiritual pride, which is the worst of all sins. Like, definitely.
But overall, though, and the artwork. What did you think about the artwork from the late, great Norm Breyfogle?
Really good, really impactful, really well composed. I can definitely take a lesson or two from that.
Batman's first appearance was the best one. His face in shadows, that big smile.
Yeah. I also really liked how they explained the origin of Batman's costume, because it was something of a deliberately ironic choice.
Yeah, it was a father wore it as a demon for a... And now, one thing I liked about this whole story I want to say before I forget, is how the divergence happened long before Bruce was born, long before everything.
Yeah, or it's just like they didn't contrive something to magically happen because of Batman. It was something that was around long before him, and because that effectively tells the message a lot better, because it's just like, this isn't something that just like came into vogue recently. It's something that's been a thing for a long time. And it's just like, how many times have you seen this throughout history, where you have stuff like Well, a lot of states proclaiming that, hey, you-
Yep. No, I know what you mean, but I will say this: the fact that it was so bad that you had Ma and Pa Kent when they found Clark, they didn't decide to raise him. They're like, he's a freak. We must turn him over to the state.
mhm.
That pure-hearted Ma and Pa were that far gone.
Yeah,
You
it's
know
just like,
yeah. That they
and
were
it's sort
that
of terrifying to think that, yeah, you hope you won't get caught up in something like that, but the fact of the matter is, it's very hard when that's the sort of environment you find yourself in.
very much so. So, what would you rate this for its story and its artwork?
9.5 out of 10.
For
That
both?
was really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. I knew you would really like this one. And again, the inside of this, especially the fact that Alan Brenner, the writer, took so much from actual history.
I could sense that a lot. Like, you have stuff like obviously the Inquisition is a reference to the Spanish Inquisition, which is, while it's not as bad as a lot of internet atheists would lead you to believe, it's still
It's
a
pretty
mindset
bad.
that is very much not good.
Exactly. And then now that you also have um, the Star Chamber.
Oh yeah.
That actually, like it said there, that was from 1641 when it was abolished.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like
It's like,
that, you're just like, wow, he really looked into it. And the fact that technically he never goes by the name Batman when you think about it.
mm-hmm.
In fact, he's not even intentionally taking on the name of a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Not by intention anyway, but I felt so bad for Barry Allen, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, he was so close that it's just like, oh hey, we anticipated this possibility, and so he ends
Guy.
up getting a really horrific death.
Oh, and Zatanna, when they think she was an innocent, yeah, but we found the best way to coerce people is by harming innocents.
Yeah. Which
That
is
was
ironic since the very central thing that happened in Christianity is the most innocent man in history died to save other people. It's just like, you
exactly.
know that they're blind and talking out of their ass because they can't see what they're literally doing right in front of them.
Exactly. This is what's the case of. But the biggest thing of all, though, is none of Batman's villains were in this, except for
Mm.
Clayface.
Yeah, which I'm aware of thanks to the wonderful episodes depicting him in the animated series.
Yeah, but here, the enemy is the state. How
Hmm.
can you bring down the state that's already now conquered America, conquering England, is already going around the world? How can one man do that?
Sounds like he might need
Well,
some kind of a miracle.
exactly some act of God.
Hmm.
Like I say, I also like the fact that with Superman, him being dead, I love how Batman said, like, I felt like he already felt like he lost hope by seeing his
Hmm.
corpse.
Yeah, that was a really neat detail. It's just like,
I
that
don't
was
even know
like
who
a really effective use of the death of Superman because it gets what Superman is supposed to be
just
and
by
just
looking at
shows
him.
you. Hmm.
Just by looking at him, he felt we've lost something
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
Well, that's all we've got to say on this one. Thank you very much for joining me on this one, Ingrid, and we'll see you all on the next one. Take care.